Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us today at USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is the art of creating mental health wealth. Our topic is how spirituality and philosophy can help us overcome adversity. Joining me is the star of our show, JENETTA Barry. She is coming to us live from Africa, and she has shared her story many times with us in the creation of the Epiphany process. We're going to hear what's been up with her and then welcome our guests to the show. If you are watching on our YouTube channel, please do subscribe so that you can be aware of all the shows that we have every week. Thank you. Welcoming JENETTA Barry in the Epiphany process. Hello.
Hello, everybody. Lovely to be back again, Dr. Jacalyn. I've missed you.
I know I've missed you too. It seems like it's been a few weeks, but it's always good to see you so bright and colorful. How have you been?
I've been so well. We've had family visiting us here, so that's always very heartening and heart-opening, but time-consuming. But just so lovely that they've come and we've been able to share. We took them on a day's safari to Soisambu yesterday, which is the farm at Lake Elementaita that I showed in Global Adventures a few weeks ago. So we took them right down to the lake edge, and we had lunch at a lodge in the farm that's owned by the Aga Khan. And the hotel group is part of the Aga Khan setup. So it was just lovely. It's been a really special time, but busy, because in between one does have to work or want to work. It's not like I'm in that have to zone. I really love my work, but here I am.
Well, that comes through. You're very passionate about helping other people. And it sounds like you had a very enchanted time in a place that people would love to come and visit. So I'm sure your family members are very happy that they're there. And, JENETTA, yesterday was Valentine's Day. And I bring that up because we talk about mental health. And for some people, that holiday specifically, is a tough one because maybe they're alone or they lost someone or they're still trying to find their own way within themselves. And I know that you work really well with people in the Epiphany process, people who are going through a grieving process, a loss process. And I'd love for you to tell our audience a little bit more about that, and then we'll bring out our guest.
Yes, well, thank you. The Epiphany process is a process that I had to walk the walk and talk the talk with after I lost my 16-year-old daughter, Jenny, to suicide after she and I had an argument. And it just felt like I was in a never-ending black emotional hole, like serving a prison sentence. And one day, actually 9 months after she died, I had what I would now call an epiphany moment as I realized that I'd forgotten I had choice to get through this loss, that it didn't need to label me and define me for the rest of my life. And that's when I started studying and researching and working what I was studying and researching on myself. And I've now been able to help people all over the world, people who've been in terrorist attacks. Strangely enough, I've had 3 children with nightmares and sleepwalking I've been working with at the moment from different parts of the world. One's New York, another one's Nairobi, and another one's Australia. So, it's just been an amazing journey of being able to pay back where I was able to step into a normal life again. And I've been able to take this process and make it into a certification program, 2 certification programs. And we've just launched, to go on to the metaverse, the corporate products that will be going out through the metaverse very soon. So I'm very inspired and excited about that.
Congratulations, JENETTA, and good for you for taking your business to another level where you can reach even more people and bring them a sense of peace.
Oh, thank you. It feels like it's teamwork, and it's been teamwork on this platform, very especially with you and others I very dearly love in the family that is USA Global TV. But I have cousins in your global village, and they're the ones on the metaverse. And it's just so lovely to have that support and collaboration and inspiring conversations where it's not such a lone venture. So I wanted to thank you too, Dr. Jacalyn. It's been a wonderful journey with you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I feel the same way about you. It's wonderful. I was saying to somebody yesterday that, well, I don't have any friends in person that I get together with. My friends are all here across the world, and you can really develop wonderful relationships with people, even though you're not physically getting together with them. But we have this technology that enables us to go across the world and bring education. It's incredible. And
I have clients I've had for 5 years that I've never met, and you'd never think so.
We are blessed that we can form these relationships. And one of our dear friends, Dr. Madeline Chan, she actually has introduced someone to you who is backstage. Tell us a little bit about him.
Well, yes. I had Madeline say to me, you've got to really meet TIAGO. And when TIAGO sent me the list of his accomplishments, I was kind of fell off my chair, because what this man has done is exceptional in the time of life he's been living. And he's currently a student studying masters in global studies. But he's got his master's degree in peace and development work. He's got a bachelor's degree in law. He's been in arbitration and mediation in law conflict. And he's a member of the business development officer, and finally a senior executive assistant at the British NGO on global peace. And I'm only touching on a quarter of what this very special man has achieved in his lifetime. And I think what came over to me, because I've only met him a couple of minutes ago, actually, to speak. We've been typing to each other. But I think what's come over to me is that this is a very heart-centered man who's been able to do what I talk about so often, which is to take the philosophy of things, the intellectual side of life, and bring it into a heart-centered place and connect it to spirituality. And to me, that will make such a difference. This man's got a legacy and a half to leave behind. But in the meantime, before he leaves it behind, I'd like him to share all that he is and all the abilities that he has to make a difference. As a personal development mentor and an international awards winning peace worker, I would like to introduce you to TIAGO. TIAGO, welcome today.
Hi, TIAGO.
Everybody. Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a blessing to be here.
Welcome to the show. You're joining us from Sweden today, correct?
Yes, I am in Sweden at the moment. I'm in Sweden
Fantastic.
for around 3 years.
Well, JENETTA gave you a great introduction, and also adding on that there's so much more that you have accomplished, and I'm sure that you will accomplish. What is your connection to adversity? It seems like you've had a charmed life and the ability to accomplish so much.
Well, that's actually interesting because, especially when it comes to mental health, right? All of us, we have some challenges in life, and then we try to find new ways to do things. And from those new ways, sometimes you find good things, you find bad things, which is it's natural thing about human, right? It's about learning new things, and then from that you started to grow and find yourself. And I think that that was actually everything that led me through the personal development, everything that I learned from good and from bad, the previous experience, right? Because all of them was also necessary for me to reach where I am at the moment. And I mean, I just feel happy about that. That despite of some odds and some things that sometimes you feel like, oh, did I did really right about that? I reached and I did a lot of things that yeah, a lot of people feel like, wow, you did so much, and a lot of things that I did were actually online, which is also surprising. You know, like you can do so much online, and that's also what I empower to people. I think that's it for me.
Wow.
Thank you.
So, Tiago, obviously, I hear behind the words that there's a lot of challenge that you've managed to work through in life. And am I right in saying that it inspired you to start studying and make a difference? Are you comfortable sharing an example of what it was that got you to go on this journey? Where was that pain point? Because when that's shared, it can help so many people. What actually inspired you to do this?
I actually have a very complex situation with my relatives. I think that was actually what happened in the beginning. I was always connected with the Catholic Church. I was baptized by the Catholic Church. I learned a lot of things there, but the situation with my parents, they weren't really stable, and I faced a lot of challenge. There was a time, for example, that my father went to United States, and I had a complex situation with my mother, and there was somebody that also kidnapped us for a time. And I seen a lot of things as well that were very, very complex. I participated in an event back in Brazil that I saw a lot of bad on people using a lot of drugs, and especially like youth, you know. And these things, they really touch me very, very much. And then I also felt that I generate some sort of trauma. But in the same way, I also wanted to learn more to improve myself, which I think that I always have this sort of connection with this philosophy, spiritual feeling that I always had in my whole life. And I was just trying to learn and find my way in, you know.
Wow, that
Wow.
does sound like you've gone through quite a bit. That, and I'm wondering, as you think back on it, how are you feeling? Is the pain still there?
I feel that it's much better now because I was doing a lot of therapy treatment. And that's actually very interesting, to be honest with you both. When I faced some situation here, especially with some organizations that I was working, because I think also there is this point sometimes that you really feel that you already contribute, and maybe you need to look more deeper into yourself than actually not really what the other thinks about you. Because especially nowadays with the internet, and since I'm also by myself here in Sweden, you tend to, especially, I have this nature to make everybody happy, but I wasn't really making myself happy. So then I started to look and say, okay, I needed to work on myself. I started to do a lot of therapy. And then within the therapy, I was like, you know what, this is very interesting. And then I started to find about coaching, mentorship, Tony Robbins, all these big guys on this business. And then I started to see, I was like, okay, I think that maybe I have something here that could be very pleasant for me, you know. So this is the turning point for me. I can say that maybe it started last year that I really started to commit with this new perspective of life, and especially working within myself and the traumas. And nowadays, I think that I can face them better because I was doing some treatment of somebody that looks very much into the trauma so that I could face it, but also take out the bad part of it, but just understand and respect that that was just a period of my time. And again, even if there is a lot of bad moments, they did me, for example, to speak with both of you, because I met Madeleine Chen, I met Desiree, and then, it's just a networking. So this is how life it is, brings you the good and the bad as well.
I love that answer. Thank you so much. So
Thank
in
you.
seeking some assistance for yourself, you realized that you had a desire to be able to help others and to pay it forward.
Exactly. That was.
And what I found so intriguing, to add on to the back of what Dr. Jacalyn has said, was where you got to that moment when you went, why am I attracting so much? Is this something I'm attracting into my life? And why am I? Why so much trauma? And I really identify with that, because I got to that point at one point and went, could anything more happen? And
Exactly.
just to ask you, when you got to that moment of going, is this like being a magnet? What did you do to be able to manage it and do something with that and about that?
Well, I think that there is always this situation in life. I mean, that's also something that I see, especially with some friends that I have, that I look now and I see that we have a different mindset, which I also need to respect. Everybody have their own time to have this turning point, and we needed to let people need to do that, because when I had it, I was looking back to a lot of people that I knew, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you need to do that, you need to do this." But I noticed that when I had my turning point, that I started to notice, okay, I'm doing all these things, I'm happy about that, but I'm not really being my true self, my full element, my life goal, let me put it this way. I started to realize that I need really to look and be more honest. And I also feel that one of the things, especially to me, that was very dear, is that I always believed in God. I have sometimes a bit of those moments, especially nowadays. We have a lot of that maybe I'm gonna doubt a little bit, etc. But when you have this very strong, that kind of push you to this way of thinking, okay, maybe I have the opportunity to change. Maybe I have this perspective to look more to myself than the others, and have this element. And for me, it was just transforming when I finally found that. And also, I respect the people that have different thoughts about that, because I also was in this period, right? Before this turning point, I also have a totally different mindset. And when I think about that, which, as I mentioned, was recent, I just look to myself and I say, wow, I cannot even recognize myself now. The plans that I have, they totally changed. Even the things that I do now.
Amazing to have that introspection and to be able to have a different path, a different journey. I think that's so important for all of us here, providing education, hope, and inspiration, that wherever we are, it's for that moment. It doesn't have to be forever. But I think when we get down that rabbit hole of feeling alone and lost and sad, we just think there's no way up. It's only down.
That's a very important point.
And I think also, again, I heard you saying that the moment you started working on yourself and changing yourself, that's when everything around you started shifting and changing. Is that
Yes,
correct?
exactly. That's very correct. And I feel that's also this point that you started to see the situation about what I'm actually doing. When sometimes, of course, like, we meet people online, we respect them. Some of them are genuine, some of them are not, and you just grow, right? I think that's was what was important for me. But the biggest thing is that I started to reconnect with people that genuinely love me, which, I mean, was my family. I wasn't really talking that much with a lot of my family. I didn't have the best situation, for example, with my sister and some other, my father, for example, that he didn't speak that much. And then when I had this introspective, this idea, I started to understand that I just want to share with them love. I don't really need them to fully understand, but just go through love and just respect the way they are, because I think that's the most important. And I mean, they still there. They also have their challenge, and sometimes it's not about really just coming to the person and trying to fully understand them. It's just about sharing love and just have this time to let them know that you love them and then reconnect with them. And I also start to reconnect with a lot of friends that I have back in my country and back in Brazil. And that was also strong because, especially in my case, I've been out of Brazil for around 7 years now. So that's a long time, That's definitely something that I really I needed to come back there and visit my people, my roots, and reconnect with myself. And that's when I had this moment. I really saw that my way, and I wasn't really looking to that. I was just trying to go very much like abroad, but I didn't really look to deeper to myself. The thing to go and visit my relatives, my family, my friends. I have this time to be happy again. To respect that time that I was connected with my culture and my language.
Thank you, Tiago. And I'm wondering, as a personal development mentor for people who are watching and they're thinking, wow, I'm really appreciative of Tiago's story, and maybe Tiago can work with me and help me. How do you incorporate spirituality and or philosophy in the work that you do with others?
Well, I work with something that it's called a body analyst. We check, for example, some perspective of the people, and then we see a bit of behavior that the person have. It's not really something such a stepping stone that you say, okay, this person is going to be fully like that. It's just that you understand the person, and then from that I go to other tools that I learned, especially with spirituality, that I learned with my last therapist. That I look also some philosophy from other philosophers, because I think also like coaching and self-development, you needed to have this background from philosophy and other perspective that goes a bit beyond that just coaching and you're having a one tool, right? You need really to have this sort of moment that you let the person talk to you, and then from that you get the perspectives. You try to work with them about the traumas if they want to talk about that, so you really have this interaction that you can talk to them and share the moment. So I think that overall is like that. Of course there is a bit of more, but they can really resume that as a really a conversation. I think that's the base of what I really wanted to focus on.
Thank you for sharing that. JENETTA?
I'm just about to cough, so
Oh.
I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. We'll take her
No
for
problem.
just a moment.
No problem. No problem. We are human.
So, Tiago, I'd love to have you share a little bit about your work as a peace worker. What does that entail?
Well, I actually, at the moment, I'm not really working with peace. As I mentioned, I've been to a lot of fields, as Jacalyn already mentioned. When it comes to the peace work, that is very interesting because I did everything online. And in the time I was working, for example, on that AGO that Jacalyn mentioned, I was working with them, supporting fully online with Zoom. I also supported a lot of organizations back in Africa and some in Asia with creating some pages to do fundraising at the time, which is something that, again, as I mentioned, I stopped it because I really need to work within myself. And I respect and I understand also the time, which I also think that's a point. And yeah, that time I was working, helping some organization with like their structure, even though it was online, so I had a lot of limitations. I was working with fundraising campaigns and also helping them to set up, for example, there is a lot of websites that you can use that, like GoFundMe, giving away, even Facebook, you can do campaigns. And then finally, I also had let me put this way, a more research perspective, which I was trying to analyze non-governmental organizations, non-profit sector, into more the business perspective. So I did some slides and did some presentations about some things that organizations could improve, especially when it comes to the social media and online fundraising.
Yeah, I mean that it's a huge amount. That's what blew me over. What would you say, out of all the different aspects you've embraced, either online or actually face to face, what's really, what I would say, blown your hair back? Out of all the things you've worked with, where is your heart? Where does your heart really sit? What really inspires you in the work you do?
Helping people. I think that's the thing. I mean, I just can share overall that I started with law. I worked for like 9 places, but all of them were in some sort of internship. Then I went to Hungary. In Hungary, I worked with IT, which is kind of off of this perspective. But anyways, I did that in that time. I worked as a service desk, and then I went to Sweden. I did a master. I started to work online, but the vast majority of the job that I did was volunteer. And then I moved to another city, and then I started to do another master. And then I did also some research on that. But I think that overall was just about helping people and find myself. And I think that especially with the nonprofit, I learned it a lot. But for me, it's definitely more into therapy. I feel that to help at least one person directly, right, have some sort of business and help one person directly, I can impact much more the world than actually trying to work sometimes with organization that you have a lot of bureaucracy. There is a lot of complexity when it comes to that, especially working online. So that's also why it was this moment that it was like, okay, let me really think about that, because I really know that I want to help people, but how can I do that? And then I found myself on this mentorship, coaching, and personal development perspective.
That's just so impressive about how you've been able to take your own challenge, your own pain, and address it, deal with it, and then be there for someone else. What are some of the daily regimen, routine things that you do now that might, if you share, they might be able to help other people?
That's actually very interesting, because sometimes, especially nowadays, and I have this thought as well, we think that we need to do so much to be a better person, but that doesn't take a lot. It's what I also hear from a lot of people, and what I'm gonna say reflects my life. When you organize your bed, when you go to the gym, when you go to whatever religion you are, you go to your temple, you do your mass, you do your prayers, you visit your relatives whenever you can, you go and you meet that close friends that you can really have a good time, because that's also important, right? I think those are the bases. But for me, I would say that especially now, I'm starting to wake up very early. I'm starting to focus on the gym, which was something that I really was stuck for some time. I was paying, but I wasn't going. A lot of people, they have these issues. And I also trying to learn and also take some certifications, because I have some courses to do. So I'm trying to take for this time the time to do this certifications. I also finished my master, which I need to do the thesis at the moment, because I completely finished the master. I just need to do the thesis. So I think that basically my daily routine is that I wake up, I try to clean, especially my bedroom, and then I go to the gym. I study, I think, vast majority of the day, especially online, and and then yes, I'm trying to take it very easily, and sometimes also change things, because that's also very good for us to not be completely like a robot. And then I try to schedule the way it goes, and I also use these bullet point agendas. I'm not sure if you guys are really aware that you can really point out about something of what you did in a day, if you did better on the other one, etc. Because we really need to balance our life. I mean, that's the biggest challenge that we see nowadays, and I was also included in that. We really have to have some sort of like plan, but also not be so strict on it, because we are human, we are humans, and yeah, sometimes you can do that, but you really need to have a plan to set up, like especially gym, the spirituality, the affection part, and not be completely only online, for example, right? That's good, but that's not only what life it is.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. I love what you mentioned about writing things down. I do that as well, and then you get to cross them off. It's such a good feeling.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes, even at the end of the day, I'll write down things that I did. It doesn't even matter because I already did them earlier. But I'm like, no, I'm writing it down. So I give myself credit for
Exactly.
that.
That's the feeling. Exactly.
In fact, I'm so with you, like you too, Dr. Jacalyn. I go one step further because often everything feels like it needs to be done now, and
Yes.
that's an illusion. But that's just as important as this and this and this and that. So I now get a piece of paper and tear it up into equal sizes and write
Mhm,
each one down from that agenda. And then
mhm.
I put them into a basket or a tin or something. And then I go ding, 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 like a raffle. And then I pull it out and go, that's the first one I'm going to tackle.
Love
Yeah,
it.
This is the next one. And then I put numbers to it. And then I feel as though I'm working with the universe in a sense. It's not just me going,
exactly.
it has to be that one first.
I
And
love
then it
that.
flows.
That's great. It really is. You get a hat, whatever, just put them in and mix them
Yes.
up. And yeah.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it's such good fun. And then I put a line through that piece of paper when I've completed it, and then I pick up number 2 and go, okay, let's go with that one.
That's a
That's
great
a good
tip.
idea. Yeah, I like it.
For sure. And Tiago, you mentioned the gym. How important do you think it is to actually get our bodies moving in addition to working with our mind to getting this container moving?
It's everything, right? I mean, I can see even from myself when I was really stuck on that. I mean, if you don't really train your body, you also, the mind is not going to work very fine about that. And also, may I have the chance, I'm going to mention that, especially nowadays, I think that when it comes to internet, right, we really needed to work on that because, especially for me, since I've been uh, very much alone here on Sweden, and I have, for example, my landlord and my flatmates here, which of course I still have the contact with some people. But I think that it comes to that point that if you stay too much on the internet, depending also about how you search, because there is also the situation about algorithm when it comes to Google or Meta, which is the company of Facebook, because whatever you search, sometimes you even not search something so bad, but then you notice that everything on your social media changed to that thing, and you're like, what? I just searched one time, why everything changed? Because of course they focus on the business perspective, but you need also to take care a lot when it comes to that. And for example, instead of being fully on the social media, which again I was doing that a lot, go to the gym, I don't know, just go outside a little bit and have some fresh air, because we also get very conditioned to a lot of things. And I also noticed that not only me, but a lot of people that I know, sometimes they do things that become very unconsciously because they are just in the social media, and then sometimes they see, I don't know, like fast food chain commercial, and then the other day they're just like, wow, I'm eating this, but why I'm eating this? It's kind of like this situation people say about my matrix. You start to question why I'm really eating this. I never eat this. Because of that, because we are so bombarded with information nowadays, and we really need to have this time, especially with the body. I mean, you don't even need to go actually to the gym. You can sometimes just walk. It could be also like that. That's not demand that you needed to always pay the gym, but also you can go out and just have a walk, look people on the street. It's, we need to have that. That's also the nature of human. We need to have this sort of sociability, to look some people and maybe just say hi. And I don't know, it's not just the virtual world, and the body is something that I think we are really missing nowadays, that we could just walk and make that connect with your body and the soul and the mind, because that's also connected to the mind. The body is definitely connected to the mind. Yes.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. JENETTA?
Thank you.
Well, I love what I heard you saying. In other words, was it's important to have flexibility in what you do, that it doesn't have to be one way of exercising or one or two. It can be, there are many ways. I always say this with meditation, there isn't one way to meditate. Even observing your breath or observing things around the room and taking note of them can be that. and I think that's some sound advice you've given there. And it leads me on to the next question, which is, when you have your most trying times, now that you've managed to get through all a lifetime of challenge as you have, I mean, to get through a kidnapping as well, I was sitting here going, wow. When now you're on a more even keel, and when the chips are down, when you do feel like, what's the use, what's the purpose of what I'm doing, because it happens to all of us. It's not like
Yeah.
once we get on an even path, everything's fabulous. Those
Exactly.
challenges still present themselves.
Exactly.
What are the techniques that you apply that might help our viewers and listeners today? What techniques do you apply for when you're feeling in that place of, what am I doing this for?
Yes, I think the most important and one of the things that we really need to learn is to know who you should talk, and also know that vulnerability is also important, because we have, especially nowadays, a society, and I can say also with a lot of men that I know, they also face a lot of challenge, that it's really okay for sometimes, especially as a man, that you have this time of vulnerability, that you want to talk to somebody, you want to cry, you wanted to, to connect with somebody, bond with somebody that, of course, can also understand you back. You also need to have the sense, because unfortunately, not everybody is going to really be able to do that, right? I mean, even for me, I am very open and talk to a lot of people. And I also had the situation that I really need to even revalue a lot of friendships that I have. I mean, they're still my friends, but I noticed, okay, they're just going to be more like my colleagues. But others, I learned also to adapt them. For example, I have some friends that I notice, especially when it comes to the spirituality perspective, they are amazing. They are very wise. But when it comes, especially with like situations regarding politics, I just needed to let them be. I just say, okay, we stop. But when it comes to everything connected to spirituality, then I talk to them. When it's something that it goes a bit of the politics, then I just say no. And I think that's the most important. Like what you mentioned. I mean, it's not really something so complex. We just needed to be real and also know exactly the people that we talk to and the people that we can be very vulnerable. Because, I mean, especially as I mentioned, as a man, we forget that, men, for example, they have the time that they want to also to cry, and they have also their problems. And there is a lot of, like, especially nowadays, a lot of addictions, a lot of things that we started to question ourselves. And even as I mentioned a lot, and again, I talk about that again when it comes to social media, right? We look all those people on, especially Instagram and social media, everybody looks so successful, and sometimes you cannot even really connect to them, and you just look to yourself and you say, what's wrong with me? But sometimes you don't really know their life in reality, because in social media you can be just perfect. Even when I was doing, for example, a lot of my works, a lot of friends were like, wow, you're so successful, etc. I was like, no, yes, but I mean, I still have a lot of challenges that I still need to work with. And they were kind of surprised. No, but you are an example to me. And I was like, no, it's nice, but we are all humans. And they were like, oh, but why are you saying that? And they noticed that this we need really to bring back to the discussion, to being vulnerable. Of course, again, the correct people that you talk to. But we needed to show that we are humans, we are mortal, we are not fully perfect. We always learning and stepping and things. I mean, everything that happened there in my life, I'm not gonna look to them and just say, okay, this is gonna be what my life means. I'm gonna take this experience and grow. We really need to grow and to be more connected with God or whatever you name it, and also with the sense of spirituality and meaning. And yeah, just be somebody more happy.
Tiago, I can't thank you enough for all that you've shared here today, and we'd love to invite you to come back. We've actually just run out of time, unfortunately.
It's okay, no problem. Thank you.
But it's hard to capture everything in 40 minutes. So please do come back and see us. And we have your banner up, but for people who are not able to read it, maybe they're listening on a radio platform or podcast platform, what's the best way for people to contact you, and who would you like to do so?
Yes, I think that the best way to contact me is through my Facebook page. Is TIAGO S. Bedin. I don't know if it's better for me to spell it or
Sure.
should I spell?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so my name is it's Thiago. It's Tango India Alpha Golf Oscar, and then S from Sierra dot, because it's just my last name, and then the second last name is Bedin is Bravo Echo Delta India November. That's my Facebook contact. I also have my Instagram, but I would say that my Facebook I'm more easier to reach. But anyways, I'm gonna share my Instagram as well. My Instagram is at Tiago Pro Mentor. So it's Tiago the same way as I mentioned before. T for Tango, I for India, A for Alpha, G for Golf, O for Oscar, Pro, P for Papa, R for Romeo, O for Oscar, and Mentor as a mentorship. So that's the way that you find me. I hope it's easy to understand, but Facebook is definitely the best way to reach me on my Facebook page. Yes.
Fantastic. Yep, I just connected with you right now, so it's easy to find you.
Oh,
And
thank you.
with the work that you're doing with men, I'd also like to invite you to be on our Wild at Heart show. It's a show for men, by men, about men. So I'll introduce you to the show host, Roland Friedel.
Thank you so much. I think I'm gonna be in all your shows.
I did want to say that when a man can step forward and talk about vulnerability and crying and being real and authentic, it makes such a difference. So thank you for being so open and inspiring today. And I was going to suggest the men's show too, because it all makes such a difference. So thank you. And thank you for joining us today.
Wow, thank you too as well. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you again. I know you're on another show coming up soon, so
okay,
we'll see you then. Bye,
yes,
Tiago.
Bye. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. JENETTA, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. And how can people reach out to you before we rush over to Global Adventures?
Yes, I'm putting on another hat for the next show, but for the time being, anybody who'd like to know how to step forward through adversity and communicate more clearly and succinctly from the heart rather than from a place of fear or extreme judgment, then please do contact me, because I've helped thousands of people all over the world spontaneously start to have new conversations within themselves, with their loved ones, with friends, and even colleagues and clients within their workplace. So if you'd like to find out how to do that very powerfully so that you step into your space to do it, you can look up more about the Epiphany process at www.theepiphanyprocess.com, and you can get hold of me at JENETTA, JENETTA at theepiphanyprocess.com. And I would love to spend 15 minutes to half an hour with you discussing what it is that you feel is holding you back, or defining it if you're not sure what it is that's holding you back. So this is a huge open-hearted invitation to reach out and talk to me.
Thank you so much, JENETTA, and thank you to everybody watching or listening. We're so happy to have you here with us today. We are signing off for now. We'll be back momentarily with our next show, which is Global Adventures. Do stay tuned for that. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Tiago.